Hello everyone, I am Anuj Kushwaha and welcome to the third and final video. I will speak on the representation of Dalits with the help of the analysis of some select 21st century movies. There is a very famous dialogue from a youth cult classic, R. Madhavan starrer, रहना है तेरे दिल में. The dialogue is कि 2001 का नया रूल है कि कोई भी लड़का अगर किसी लड़की को सच्चे मन से पसंद करेगा तो उसे पाके ही रहेगा. That it is a new rule of 2001 that if a boy loves a girl with pure heart, he will definitely win her love. This is how the new millennium was welcomed, with new hope and newer ways to peacefully coexist in new era. The love would remain indiscriminating as ever, but would it be able to hold the eon long undercurrents of new caste order? I say new caste order because even if in its metropolitan milieu the nomenclature might have changed, but the impact has not. While the revival of Dr. Ambedkar ideas in the field of literature and in politics and his revamped image in institutional educational institutions in the form of seminars and conferences, political appropriation of Bahujan identity, proliferation of dedicated news channels with subscribers and millions, awareness regarding rights through social media platforms, etc., have qualitatively enhanced the experience of Dalit Bahujans, the idea of fair and just society is still a distant dream. And one has to rely on states' intervention and affirmative actions like reservation for the sake of fair representation. The struggle against caste based discrimination still seems valid. Post-Mandal caste consolidation has acquired popular political term Dalit Bahujan, and notes of solidarity are expressed for each other as and when the demand for social justice arises. But it appears dismal when the cases of suicide of IIT research scholar Rohit Vemula, suicide of Dr. Pal Tadvi, Uttarakhand case where 23-year-old Dalit man was beaten by upper caste for eating in front of them at a wedding reception, cow vigilantes, and so on come to the fore. The list is exhaustive. So while technology gives the impression that the lists are more informed and organized than ever, age-old practices and discrimination still continues. It is similar to the situation of working women who, under the illusion of being financial independent, end up being doubly suppressed by the patriarchy. They not only perform their traditional roles as mothers and wives, but also face harassment and discrimination at workplace by being underpaid and being and constantly under the threat of being sexually harassed or exploited. It is because the forces of patriarchy have also evolved with the modernity among women. Dalit Bahujan too faced a similar fate. Then, in terms of cinematic experience, whether the above mentioned issues get any space in the movie, and what have we learned regarding the representation of issue are the matter of considerations here. In fact, Jyoti Nisha puts it perfectly well when she tries to identify Bahujan spectatorship in Indian cinema. For her, I quote, Bahujan spectatorship relates to an oppositional gaze and a political strategy of Bahujans to reject the Brahmanical representation of caste and marginalized communities in Indian cinema. It is also an inverted methodology to document a different socio-political Bahujan experience of consuming popular cinema. Unquote. Is there a Bahujan gaze then? For example, in Rehna Hai Tere Dil Mein, which is directed by Gautam Menon, Madhav is a Brahmin boy who is after Reena, played by the Amirja. When Madhav takes Reena to a restaurant in a scene, Reena orders non vegetarian food, and Madhav is in a fix that being a Brahmin, how would he eat non vegetarian food? But for the sake of girl, he does eat it. Does anything happen? No. In fact, he is a new age upper caste who loves to live in present. This is exactly what New Caste Order is. Debate is barely about Brahmin eating non vegetarian food. It is about his mobility in the capitalistic world. One can still retain the caste traits. Perhaps they are also necessary for vertical mobility. This new caste order evolves and considers the debate on food irrelevant. It is the access to resources that it is worried about. Even when Madhav hides his real identity from Reena in order to win her love, Reena gets upset when she learns about Madhav's real identity. Her reason for being upset is ethics, and to be specific, it is not caste. Love's foundation gets shattered when built on bunch of lies. However, Madhav eventually wins her again. Then there is a similar movie that qualifies for Bahujan Gaze, which is Masan, directed by Neeraj Gaiwan in 2015. Two stories run parallel to each other and finally converge at the end. One story deals with the life of a Brahmin girl, and other one with that of a dorm boy. The story of Brahmin girl named Devi Pathak is played by Richa Chadha, and it is about the repressed desires of small town girls and boys where premarital relations are considered as taboo. So when she, out of curiosity, goes to a mediocre hotel with a boy named Piyush Agarwal, they both are caught in a raid. It is too much for the boy to bear, and he commits suicide, while the taboo of premarital sex haunts Devi till the end. Interestingly, when Devi's father, Vidyadhar Pathak, played by Sanjay Mishra, is called at the police station, Pathak ensures to tell his full name to assert his caste affinity. When an indifferent Inspector Mishra doesn't budge, Pathak comes out openly requesting that अपना समझ के माफ कर दीजिए. Please consider me one of your own and forgive me. The surmounting pressure of money and honor becomes the crux of Pathak's family. Such views that all Brahmins are privileged are countered here by a description of shop at ghat, suffocating room, and ordinary lifestyle of father and daughter. On the other hand, the life of Deepak Kumar, played by Vicky Kaushal, belonging to Dome community, falls in love with Shalu Gupta, played by Shweta Tripathi. I see a lot of similarities between the life of Deepak and Madhav from Rehna Hai Tere Dil Mein, but with different impact. Deepak too enjoys time with friends and stalks Shalu to win her over, like Madhav. Knowing his caste foundation, he too hides his real identity, and when the real identity is revealed, the question is not about ethics at all. It is about caste, to which Shalu daringly responds and accepts Deepak wholeheartedly. The struggles are realistic. Deepak at Ghats, disposing of the bodies to be burned properly, explains the harsh reality of caste and stigmas associated with it. Shalu wants Deepak to get a job so that she could elope with him if required. So, education is essential. And even when Shalu dies, Deepak realizes it soon enough that it is only education that can liberate him and his family from the shackles of the caste. He lands with a job, perhaps a government job. Ending scene converges the life which otherwise appeared parallel but not connected. Both lives, that upper caste girl Devi and that of dome boy Deepak, both lives are linked in an uncanny way. Both their families dealt with ghat and bodies, one as of course Brahmins and other as domes. This is how the simultaneity of the spaces uh, has been maintained in the movie. Then we have the movie Lagan, directed by Ashutosh Gowarikar in 2001. The movie was nominated for the Best Foreign Language Film at the Academy Award in 2002. The movie is about beating the Britishers in their own game, cricket. For this, the villagers are ready to keep everything at stake. So we see Bhuvan, played by Amir Khan, convincing the entire village to come forward and play cricket against Britishers, which would result in their taxes being waived off for 3 years. He also, as a liberal, humanist, and focused player, decides to recruit Kachra, an untouchable. Kachra, as the name suggests, looks dirty, pathetic, and lost. On the top of that, Kachra is also disabled. However, at the crucial juncture during the match, Kachra's deformity works as a boon as he is able to spin the ball and batsmen couldn't read it. So the batsman gets bowled. The representation of this sort is typical of Bollywood, which tend to dehumanize the Dalit characters like Kachra as pale, dirty, and disfigured. And with an act of benevolence, they would bestow Dalit character with a heroic deed. For example, Kachra had to prove his worth in order to be part of the team, which metaphorically stands for society at large. In this manner, it is a kind of special citizenship which is conferred to him in return of extraordinary service Kachra has done for the village. In short, Kachra's untouchable attributes have not changed. Rather, these are big, benevolent herds of villagers who were accepting him despite his untouchability. No sense of guilt on villagers' part could be seen. Through movies like Swadesh, for example, and Article 15, Bollywood has come up with a solution to ensure transparency, but the agency and point of view would remain elitist. uh, in Swadesh, for example, another movie by Ashutosh Gowarikar, Shah Rukh Khan plays the role of an upper caste like named Mohan Bhargav, who works with NASA but always feel nostalgic about India. When he couldn't hold any longer the pangs of separation from his Swadesh, he decides to visit Kaveri Amma, his aunt in India. Mohan, an upper caste whose experience ranged from metropolitan to cosmopolitan to now rural landscape, feels a cultural shock when he comes across rampant caste system. The reformist ideas coming through Mohan are eventually appreciated because he is not biased owing to his education and upbringing in foreign. Thus, Hindu caste system doesn't have much impact on him, and yet Hindus tolerate him and his reformist streak as he is an upper caste. Then we have Article 15, directed by Anubhav Sinha. In this movie, Ayan Ranjan, played by Ayushman Khurrana, Ayan Ranjan is an IPS officer who reaches Lalgaon as the additional commissioner of police. The educational background of Ayan is categorically mentioned to ascertain his transparency. Apparently, the character of Ayan graduated from St. Stephen's College of the University. and he flew abroad for a considerable period of time, convinces the audience of his neutrality regarding caste system, concerning caste system. In fact, it takes time for him to get oriented with the rural culture teeming with Brahmanical hegemony. In this way, Ayan is free from any blemish regarding caste system. In fact, from this standpoint, whatever efforts will be taken by Ayan would be appreciated. The movie is lacking in Ambedkarite perspective, while the movie is on Article 15 in Indian Constitution. Idiosyncratic patterns could be seen in the behavior of lower caste policemen trying to assert that Parsis are below Chamars. Ayan, hearing this, feels disgusted at this without contemplating on the root cause of this issue. At the same time, it is taken care of that Ayan immediately distances himself from the Brahmin pride. The alliance of Mahant and the head of the Dalit community is reminiscent of Kanshiram's era of stooges, wherein the Dalit leaders would always work under the auspices of the upper caste for political mileage. While movie investigates the case of gang rape and the missing girl, it essentializes the lower caste attitude. Thus, to an extent, movie failed to utilize the opportunity to fairly represent the issue as the Dalit characters keep shifting uh, in and to the background. Then we have another movie, uh, Asura, directed by Vetrimaran. It came out in 2019. Film star Dhanush and Manju Warrior have done effortless acting in this movie. The movie's last dialogue is pretty famous among public that they may snatch away your land and money but not education. These words are to a son from his father on his way to jail. The movie's plot is simple but reveals the tyranny of the upper caste efficiently. Land is considered integral to one's life, but Dalits are often suppressed and trapped by greedy people that whatever small piece of land they possess are taken away from them and force them to evacuate. In this movie, Shivasami's role, played by Dhanush, um, his son humiliates Narsimha as he has humiliated Shivasami. So Narsimha is the landlord and upper caste. This doesn't go down well with Narsimha, and he kills Shivasami's elder son who humiliated him. Now, in order to avenge the death of his elder brother, Shivasami's younger son kills Narsimha. As the story further unfolds in the series of flashback, one gets to know the reason behind Shivasami's pretense of cowardice. He had lost his family and land because of his anger. He gets another chance to start his family, and he lost his son and therefore takes precautions to save his surviving son. In the movie, Shivasami is self sufficient and is capable of raising voice against the discrimination. During flashback, when his lover is humiliated by casteist elements and forced to put footwear on her head, Shivasami comes to her rescue and fights with the casteist people. He is a drunkard, but he is not pathetic. He seeks help from advocate Venugopal Sheshadri, played by Prakash Raj, but has presence of mind on whether or not to reach the court. This movie is an apt representation of Dalit issues and characters. One cannot ignore the Ambedkarite directors like Pa Ranjit, who in the movies like Kala and Kavali gives a formula to the subaltern to speak and to be heard. In an interview with Ranjit, published by The Wire, uh, I'm sharing the excerpt. A question is being asked that though Tamil mainstream cinema is often political, there is a radical shift in your films, that is to say, in Ranjit's films. What importance do mass films have and what has changed? To this, he replies, of all artistic medium, and I quote, of all artistic mediums, cinema is deeply embedded among people. In Tamil Nadu, especially, it has a crucial place. Cinema fueled the spread of the Dravidian movement because they didn't think of cinema as mere entertainment. Dravidian filmmakers created a space to state their mandate, the struggles they stood for, and to foreground Tamil culture, land, and language pride. In later years, many films on land identity, particularly rural narratives, which were popular, became about the pride of dominant caste under the cover of celebrating Tamil culture. When I, as a Dalit, watch these movies, I have to ask, where am I in these? Where is the justice for my community? If they are speaking of Tamil culture, why isn't my culture depicted? But close. Then on the issue of representation, uh, Hollywood's female actor Frances McDormand talks about inclusion rider during her Oscar acceptance speech, wherein to ensure racial and gender diversity, contracts related to it should be encouraged. Professor Dilip Mandal explains that how Hollywood is ensuring participation and has made positive development in this regard. I quote, although the minorities, blacks, Hispanics, Asian Americans, Native Americans continue to be underrepresented, Hollywood has 13.9% lead actors, 12.6% directors, and 8.3% writers in 2015 and 16. The fact that the industry has this information, which it itself has helped produce, places it in a better position to bridge the diversity gap. Unquote. Well, owing to the limitation of time, I couldn't include the movies like Sairat, which came out in 2016, a Marathi romantic tragedy directed by Nagaraj Manjule, where the struggles of Dalit boy and upper caste girl are shown. The matrix of caste is so interwoven that they countercheck the progressive narratives once triggered during 1930s. We have seen this in the first video. Then we have movies like Madati and Unfair Tale, which came out in 2019. Its English version came in 2021, which is based on the hardships of an unseeable community, namely Puthirai Vanars, who are forced to live pathetic lives of remaining unseen and to live by doing works for other Dalit community people. The director is Leena Manimekalai, who has done exceptional work in depicting the lives of a Puthirai community, the unseeable community. While India and Indian cinema continues to ignore the representation of Dalits, this view appears more myopic when one realizes that Indian cinema is not just ignoring Dalits, it is also not able to think of Dalit Bahujans with far more than 50% of Indian population as their audience and spectator. Once this is done, Indian cinema would start generating the movies needed in current times. Thank you very much. This brings us to the end of the video. Thank you.